Hello everyone, welcome to Lorelines episode 29. Fowlinhawk speaking. Today we have a very special guest, Pyromancer. For those who do not know, which is probably nobody, he is a Twitch streamer and YouTube content creator with over 46,000 followers and 91,000 subscribers, respectively. Ayumi will be moderating today, but as usual, thank you all for your continuing support and for spreading the word about our community. And as a disclaimer, Pyro is fairly new to Final Fantasy XIV, and we have a hard policy against spoilers today, so please be careful. Bonnie will be watching the chat, and for reference, he has completed Soam All and Heavensward. Thank you all, and I am opening comms. There we go. Hello, everybody. How's your week been?
Hello.
Week has been on the computer.
Busy.
The week has been not on the computer because I didn't get my new computer until Friday.
Just glad
Well,
you got it before the
congratulations.
weekend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But shall we allow Pyro to introduce himself to
Yes,
the wider
please.
world real quick?
I think that'd be great. Thank you. Oh, welcome, Pyro.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. This is so far already a very fun, unique, cool experience. So I'm very happy to be here. I am a newly arrived Final Fantasy XIV streamer. I guess not really new anymore. I mean, it's still new in the grand scheme of things. It's been several months. And I'm big into the lore, hence my presence here. I've been taking notes on everything that I do in the game that I find to be of any use. I have about 40 pages of notes now, and I plan to continue taking those. And that's one of the things that people come to my stream for. So if that sounds fun to you, that's me. Glad to be here.
That sounds awesome.
We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
Looks like we
It's
got
nice.
your link in the chat as well. That's excellent.
Yes.
It would be nice to not be
An emo.
have another
also-
friend with notebooks full of information like myself.
Yeah.
Can relate.
I'm
Absolutely.
going to need to get a new one soon. This one
Oh
is
no.
Oh
nearing
no.
its completion.
You might want to organize them by expansion.
Yeah. I think that's actually what I'm going to do.
Also,
'Cause yeah.
congratulations on going full-time streamer.
Thanks. Thank you. Kind of a dream come true kind of thing, I guess. I mean, it's something that I've done before with a different game at a different time in my life. And we made it work then, and circumstances now are much, much better. And I think I've come a further way as a person now. So wanted to give it a try again. And I'm extremely grateful that I have the opportunity, because honestly, if the support of the 14 community wasn't as incredible and as generous as it is, it wouldn't be possible. So yeah, thanks everyone that's been a part of that.
We are glad to have you.
Yeah, all the best with that.
Thanks. It's scary, but it's fun, and it's going well.
So, shall we dive right into today's topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
Although,
Yeah.
I did want to say, Pyro, I've seen your stream, and I am very jealous of your room. It's
Oh, thanks.
amazing. I love the art, the black mage, the three. It's perfect and
Thank you.
nice.
Yeah, those are great. Those are from Displate. Those are large, not sponsored by the way. Those are just like large ones with black trim if you're interested in getting them. I love them. I thought that they would be a really cool addition, and the way that they mount to the wall makes them super easy. So if you're looking for one, that's where you get them.
They look real sharp.
Thanks.
Alvin opens the browser immediately.
Did you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Displate.com/Pyromancer. That's a joke. I don't have a link.
As he opens up a second tab.
Begin sending email. Hold on.
All right, so
Relatable.
back on topic.
We do this a lot.
No, that's okay.
So, first and foremost, let's talk about the evolution of the player character, beginning in ARR. You mentioned that you were curious and interested in talking about just how the player kind of evolves and grows over the course of the game. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that from the get-go, I think that the game, even in its 2.0 form, which I have to, first of all, I just have to commend, like the fact that what I experienced in 2.0 was created as long ago as it was, and in the short of time as it was. I'm very impressed. I have to say that. With that being said, it's what I mean by that is like when you kind of start off, I really love that you kind of picking what you're interested in playing determines where you're going to go. And I think those different city experiences are very, very unique and very cool. I'm very happy that I ended up going with Limsa Lominsa, and that's why I have the Maelstrom thing on the wall there. But I think what I mean primarily is like you come in kind of new, you know, kind of like a fresh, you don't really know anything special about yourself or the world really, and you're kind of introduced to things at a fairly steady and reasonable rate. You feel like the power that you're gaining is like appropriate, I would say. Like the progression of obtaining like the blessings of light and all of those things, I think really makes for a good sense of like there's actually a process to me going through this and obtaining these boons, and I understand that if I lose them it could be very detrimental. And then later on in the story you get to a point, you know, going into Heaven's Ward where you do lose them, and that feels very you feel very vulnerable in those instances. And I guess that's what I mean by the progression of the character is like you don't feel invincible, but you're still you still know that you're special as like the warrior of light, and there's this special connection with Hydaelyn and your echo and all of those things, right? You still know that you're very unique and very special, but you know that you need to, you know, you can't just go around and you know, destroy whatever you want. And I think that that's it's just really well done, especially for the fact that it was created in 2009, 2010. So
all the way back in 2013, I think, was when ARR launched.
that's
yeah, the
when
current
actually- sorry.
iteration.
So I guess it would have been like 11, 12 then.
More or less. It was
two,
it
yeah.
was released almost at the same time as Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. That's why I recall it.
Yeah, but it's I especially do like how they paint your character as you're not invincible. You're not
Right.
an all-around hero. You're an adventurer who happens to have special abilities.
Yeah. I really like that, and I like that they kind of keep the special abilities even a mystery to you, and I think that that's an interesting way to go about it, because it still leaves like the sense of wonder and progression and like a furthering of your understanding as you progress through the story. So you're not, you know, you're kind of you're getting that from both angles on your character, both as like an adventurer / hero, but also like kind of figuring out like what am I, and like what is this connection with this divine entity mean, and I really love that. I think that the sense of mystery surrounding just the character and the echo is in and of itself a really, really fun aspect of the story. So
I absolutely agree. I also want to add that this is actually the second iteration of ARR after patch 5.3, which reduced the number of quests by about 13%. And I also do want to add that there is separate cutscenes for legacy players who played 1.0
I'm told
that you might find interesting if you haven't seen them on YouTube already.
I haven't seen them already. I would be interested probably to see those. I think I've had people mention them to me probably on the stream before. But yeah, I'd be interested in seeing those, because I think and even for like, obviously for like the narrative reason, that's cool. But I also think for just like the player acknowledgement and support that you kind of experience from that is a really special thing. Like World of Warcraft has nothing like that, and that's the game that I came from. So to see that even exist in any capacity in this game is, I don't know, that's really cool, man. I wish I could get those cutscenes personally and not have to watch videos of them, but I will probably look them up because I'm very interested to see how they did that.
Man,
Yeah, there's some
same.
really cool
Spoiling yourself
cutscenes.
very much on anything too. So
No?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
If I may ask, if I may ask, Pyromancer, are you familiar with Guild Wars 2?
I'm actually not. I've read just a little bit about the universe of Guild Wars when I was doing World of Warcraft story stuff, because I think that it's not uncommon for certain games to develop ideas from others, essentially. So, you know, I think World of Warcraft has done things that Final Fantasy has done, to put it that way. But yeah, I mean, I've never really jumped into Guild Wars. I'm not that familiar with it. I couldn't like reference names or anything.
No, it was simply because the way Final Fantasy 14 the character progression of your main character is
Mhm.
not as deep as Guild Wars 2 is, because that's full blown. The main character has their personality and everything. They have their story, and
Mhm.
it actually pretty much well, they're rather badass, but they're not invincible, and that's
Yeah.
but that's something that I think. Of course, we know Yoshi P kind of draws things from many sources, and I'm
Mhm.
quite sure that he drew from Guild Wars 2 in that regard. Though, of course,
Thankfully.
we don't we don't talk. I mean, our character, we choose more or less the answers we're given, but our character is kind of left to us to flesh out. Which doesn't
Yeah.
happen in Guild Wars 2, because in Guild Wars 2, the commander is already has the dialogue, their own dialogue, their own events. You're basically just controlling the commander, not being the commander. But yes, I
Oh,
think
that's an
that's
interesting take on
something.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really great. I mean, if you one day decide to play Guild Wars 2, if you enjoy story-driven games, it's great.
Yeah.
But
Thank you for the
as
recommendation.
you're most welcome. But yes, and I think Final Fantasy 14 is kind of the middle ground between this sort of deep story-driven story of Guild Wars 2 and the mostly gameplay driven World of Warcraft. And because it's the middle ground tends to please everyone and do things right.
Yeah, I think I think it's a really nice balance between the two, and I think that it makes it more easily enjoyable and probably better pacing and a little bit more playable for people that have varying like amounts of time to play the game and things like that. So I think that's I'm really I'm really happy with the balance. I think the game is great to play.
So I'm
But,
going
yeah.
to defer to Fao here, or Neela. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I did have one thought I wanted to bring up. I find the way that the character is not invincible is very compelling, and it makes him feel very human, very real in a way. And it's also very neat to me the way we gain prestige by helping other people, by doing things for other people. It's not an I'm going to go solo this boss and everyone look how cool I am. No, we're trying to save captives, and it just sort of happened, you know?
Right.
I just really
like. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was just gonna say I think that like it's more relatable in that way, and it's more like I think for me it's more like admirable, I guess, because there have been experiences for me in other games where it's like literally go farm 7,000 million of this, and that's how you get your title. That doesn't. I don't know. It's just like it's not compelling, I guess. And I think that when you make it a more meaningful actual thing that you're doing for people in the game, I think that goes a long way. Not just for like narrative purposes, but also the way that it affects like the feelings of the person who's playing. I think that it's a really, really good thing that they do in that way.
I absolutely agree. And I think I remember in Quarry Mill around level 30, there was a quest line where it was a fetch quest, really. And, you go out, you kill like 3 stags or whatever, but you come back and you're like, oh, yeah, it was for medicine to help this guy. So it's not just like, oh, we need to call the whatever population. It's actually, helping people who are in this world.
Right. And some of those people you'll see later. And I'm like starting to see that more that I play this game. I'm like, holy shit. It's been a long time. Can I swear on here? Is that cool?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I do it all the time.
Fully allowed. Go for it.
Watch your damn mouth.
I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, it's been a long time, but I kind of remember you. And I initially, like, there's even characters that initially I didn't like. And then, towards the end of the way that they progress characters in this game is just so fucking sick, dude. Like, I think that the way that it makes me feel when I play the game is so much more positive. It's insane, dude. Like, instead of just killing the people that do the shit that you don't want them to do, because that's what happens in other games, you actually like see them progress as a person, even if they're a minor character. It's like they actually get, I don't know, dude. It's just such a different attitude and take on the questing and character experience compared to other MMOs.
Are you referring to the South Shroud questline?
I'm referring to, I guess, several different
happens
quest
multiple
lines.
times,
Like,
yeah.
Constantly happens. It's great, actually.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, like the dungeon party that you very first meet in
Yep.
Gridania, right? Like that's a big one. Like I don't know, having Ilberd come back and like that quest line tying back into with the Crystal
Yeah.
Graves, like getting back into the end of ARR was another example of that. Like there's the black mage quest line. There's this guy that you've got to work with who's just the most annoying fucking black mage hater
Mhm.
advocate of white magic ever. And he, like, through the questing, he starts to realize, maybe it's possible to control the destructive forces, and maybe I'm like looking at this the wrong way, and that just type of progression of characters is so refreshing, and I really think that leaves a very positive imprint on the player. I can't emphasize that enough.
I like to think of 14's story overall as a tapestry, and each of the threads is, the different characters, the locations, the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Lore, the magic system, everything. It really feeds in very well, and I find it really compelling as a result.
That is
Yeah.
one of the most impressive things that Square has done with this title. They seem to be able, and you'll see this as you progress the story past where you are as well, but it's definitely applicable to where you are now. Like they seem to be able to interlace story beats in a way that if they were done in a bad way, it would seem very contrived, but because they're able to weave it so like deftly, it just fits. It's like the difference between very bad writing and excellent writing is just how you thread the needle.
Right. It's often the intricacies and subtleties between the narrative points that really matters. And the thing is that in this game, they do it in a way that's like believable. And I think that's a big aspect of it too, is like, yeah, it's fantasy. Shit, it's literally in the name of the game, but it's still believable, and it's still relatable, and it doesn't feel like in poor taste, it doesn't feel forced. So I think for me, that's for my enjoyment in my experience, I think that's one of the biggest aspects and reasons of why it's so effective. So yeah, I totally agree.
If I may,
Go ahead.
I think one of the things that most, I mean, I'm not going to call it subtle because it's not subtle at all, but it's actually the story makes you question things, and it's not just that. For example, when I think it was Cobb who mentioned before the thing with the kill the 3 stacks, and you're like, oh, you're going to make me kill 3 stacks for reasons. And then you go back and then you realize, oh, okay, they were meant for this. So it's kind of telling you the game kind of tells you not to be hasty in your judgment of others, because there may be something deeper than that. You see, and you probably noticed that it's all about it's all about actually the feeling I get is it makes you question what everything takes for granted.
Yeah.
And
it is not subtle. I agree with you. It's not subtle.
I
think that's a good thing.
It's not subtle, but at the same time, it's not something people are used or sadly taught in school for the most part to question things by themselves. I could ramble about the many flaws of education system. That's more like an indoctrination system, but I'm not going to delve into that. I'm just saying that learning to question what everyone takes for granted, even question the morals you believe to be true throughout all your life. Let's say that yes, this story certainly makes one pause and consider. Let's say that. Let's define it as that.
Yeah, and I think that there's like, I'm going to make a lot of references to WoW, so I hope that's okay.
I don't mind. A lot of us
so, like,
actually come from there, so it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, like I think you've probably seen in WoW where like not a lot of that necessarily happens. Like, and in WoW, when they do try to get you to think in that way, it is more subtle. And I also think that the way that you interact with like characters and questing is just not nearly as engaging as it is in this game. So that's an issue first off. But like, yeah, I really do like the fact that it's kind of, the game does kind of push you towards like using your own best judgment and trying to understand the different viewpoints instead of just, riding along on the train— I think it's a wonderful thing that they do. And I have noticed it a lot. It's all over. It's literally all over. So it's actually one of my more favorite things about this game compared to WoW. Especially when you get into conflicts like, for instance, before you learn of her true name, like when I first met Iceheart, and I started thinking about like, why is this union of man and dragon like considered to be, heresy? Like, why is it such a bad thing? Like, are we like listening to what Iceheart's saying? Obviously, initially she's very like holier than thou kind of tone, and I think they do that to give you an initial impression of her. But as you all know, like as you move later on throughout the story, you really understand her perspective, and then there's a point where she actually just flat out explains to you what happened. And I think that it was very nice to be able to get to that point and kind of have it presented to me in a way where it's like, hey, maybe this isn't necessarily the best thing, and to be able to look back and say, you know what, I really like how they kind of posed her initially, because it kind of made me kind of start thinking about that, and it made me question it, and I wasn't sure if I was on the right side.
They do that with a lot of characters in the game, especially with the villains. The villains
I love
too.
that. The villains are the most important ones to do it with, because that's what makes villains believable.
I agree.
Like,
Agree.
when,
Absolutely agree.
if villains don't have like a legitimate purpose or like an actual perspective, and they're not willing to voice it in a way that actually makes the point to you, villains feel hollow and empty and fake, and that's why Sylvanas Windrunner pisses so many people off.
Oh my god.
So
I mean,
you know.
she was. I mean, if I may, I've been, I for the time I play WoW. I mean, I main a Forsaken priestess for fuck's sake.
Oh,
I was
I was a Forsaken warlock, so I'm with you.
Same.
I was being a Sylvanas simp before they ruined her. I think.
Yeah, Sylvanas has
I-
always been fucking hot undead, like, and awesome. Like, she's always been a badass. Like, even like I wish I don't know, dude. I could ramble about that. Yeah.
She was.
Even
I mean,
back to when she
she
was
was
a night elf
great.
model.
She was
Yes.
great. She was great up until my judgment is she was great up until I stopped playing after playing what was Legion. I don't know. Well, I first I left WoW
2017,
after
I think.
the first part, whatever. I played the first part of Legion, and then I moved definitely to 14.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I was still looking forward to where the story was going, and the moment Battle for Azeroth came, I felt like this is not Sylvanas.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a different.
That's a different
I'm not
story.
gonna elaborate on that, but yes, I can see where you're coming from on that one.
It's really just
yeah,
narrative
yeah.
device, believability, and dialogue. Like,
Yeah, the only one where it didn't really sell me was Nail Deus Darnus, and that's because that was just obviously a shit show, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But after I had it explained to me and watched a video, I was like, okay, that's cool. What's next? So-
Yeah, that really confused me when I did Coils back in ARR, and I was like, who is this person and why are they here?
yeah,
It was worse for me because I went from Nail in 1.0 to Nail in Coils, and I was just like, wait, the fuck happened? What is going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to try to understand that, because I just like I saw the character, and then I think someone in one of my mods like sent me a character blurb on Nail Van Darnus, and then I think I ended up like ending that because that was in the first part of Coils, so I didn't get to that part until later on. So I ended up watching a video about who Nail Van Darnus was, so I understood who the character was. I understood what they did and like their conquest and them, all their interactions with Gaius and stuff, but I didn't really get. Once I got there, I was like, wait, it's a chick? And that's where I got really fucking confused. But then, yeah, that's when I had to have the additional context and all the explaining, and I was like, oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah. Nail is one of my favorite characters from 1.0, I will say, just because of the way they used Nail in these like nightmare scenes that you could have in 1.0. As
That's
Dalma
scary.
got closer to crashing into Eorzea, if you logged out your character in an inn, sometimes when you would log back in, instead of just immediately hopping out of your bed, you would have a nightmare sequence with Nail in Mordona killing like all of your allies and everyone, and then getting
my
ready to
God.
kill you, and
That's
then
so
you would wake
amazing.
up as they're about to kill you.
What the fuck?
So there are still
It's
things they could
so
make to make
cool.
this
Crazy.
game more immersive because they've done them before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They really made the 1.0 end of the world scenario completely believable. Like, it was great the way they pulled it off, and seamlessly too.
Ever since I saw that, when I was still on WoW, I was just hoping and praying that they were going to do that, because they ended up having a sequence of events where a giant god made of fire stabs a giant sword into the planet, and then a red star appears in the sky like Planet X, and they made it look like, honestly, they made it look like they were going to end the fucking world. Like, they have so
I
much.
remember
I
that
mean,
cutscene.
they're still kind of progressing towards that if you consider it, like the jailer getting out and like basically being the fucking scourge of the universe. You know,
Let 'em
they
win.
might end. I mean, I think they should. Like, I honestly think they should. Like, I think that game needs a fucking in a Realm Reborn. Honestly, they need to
Another
do
streamer
something.
was talking about that and how this could absolutely be a good setup if they wanted to.
Do they literally have a lore? I mean, they have re-origination. You have established lore that gives you a free fucking get out of jail card to reset a planet.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And there's like 5 different versions of it. So I really think like they could easily incorporate that, and they should. Honestly, they should. I've been saying that for like 5 fucking years.
Can
But
I
anyway.
add? It's a little bit of a silly, but going back to the nightmare thing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the biggest quality of life change Square Enix could make to Final Fantasy XIV is to allow us to have the in log out in our free company beds, because we
I
cannot right click
wish.
them, and I would love to right click log out and just, oh boy,
Yeah, I'd like to be able to log out in my house, please.
in
One
the
day.
way
Yeah.
you do in an inn.
Not a problem that I have. Not relatable at all. But
No, it's
issue-
not.
Being
It's
the
silly.
hobo.
The issue with that is as soon as you log back into the house, you don't pop up in your room, you pop up outside.
It's instanced.
Yeah, and so
You'd have to
when
have
you
a dream
come
of
back,
Sleepwalking.
Oh,
yeah,
what?
it's like, oh, who was driving me? Was I sleepwalking? What did I kill? Why am I wearing this?
Why am I wearing
That is
women's
true.
clothing?
If I may, since the chat is, I see the chat kind of going rambling about Garlemald. I would ask, if I may, Pyro about his view on the Garlean Empire and from what we've seen and their relationship or opinion on the Warrior of Light.
Yeah, I think that the Garlean Empire, I sort of see them as like the standard kind of like generic bad guy faction, you know, like not necessarily legitimately bad in everything that they do. Like, I think that there's some things that the Garleans believe in that Gaius believed in that I don't necessarily think that I agree with his tactics and how he wanted to accomplish them, but I could see his perspective, and I think again that some of them are pretty damn believable characters. Some of the writing for some of those like generals, I guess not generals, but like the ones right under Gaius, like they were kind of crazy, and like the I can't remember her name, the one in the
Livia.
white,
Olivia.
yeah, that
Yeah.
literally just like shoots her own people and shit. It's like, oh my god, that's kind of crazy. But anyway, like I don't know. I like the Garleans. They're admittedly not my favorite, and I think that there's still a lot to discover about them. I think one thing I do kind of like about them, and I said this on another podcast recently, was that I'm really interested in the Allagons, and I think that seeing the way that the Garlean Empire in some aspects is kind of interpreted, or the way that they understand things from the Allagons is an interesting. It's just good to get a different perspective on some of those things, even if they don't necessarily line up with like the truth of like what they really are, you know, like the use of the word icon and things like that.
Mhm.
But I like to see, I kind of like that through another faction I can sort of discover things about another one, at least a different perspective on it. So
So I was going to ask
Yeah.
you that. Well, since we already covered the Garlean opinion, what were your thoughts? I want to hear your final thoughts. Now that you've done Coils, what are your final thoughts on Coils overall?
So I think there's a couple different things to look at with it. I think there's like the pacing of it and like the progression of difficulty, because I do care about that experience as well as the narrative experience. I think that it was pretty fucking hard considering, but I also understand that it's structured in a way that's different from how it is in the more modern version of the game as far as how the raid goes and the difficulty levels and things like that. As far as the storyline goes, I quite liked it. I liked that it kind of brought closure to. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really like actually how it brought closure to the story with Louis Sois initially, because that was a big mystery. You know what was going on there? I think for a long time the character, we got little bits and pieces of information, but we were still kind of left in the dark. And so the way that they kind of put that all together within Coils, I think, was a nice payoff. I really liked a lot of the cutscenes in Coils. I really found like Bahamut to be menacing, and finding out that we're on like what is considered a Ragnarok class fucking Allagan starship blew my mind. I was like, what in the fuck? Like that got me thinking. I was like, does this race of people even come from this planet? Like if they have starships to travel the sky, like where do they even come from? So there were things that came out of Coils that really made me question other aspects of the game. But I really loved how they did things with Louis Sois. I really liked how they had Alice and Alphino come together in the way that they did. I really was kind of shocked and taken aback by the whole Phoenix thing. That really kind of opened my eyes to like, holy shit, man! Like with enough prayer and stuff like that, pretty much anything could ascend to become more than mortal at this point. It was kind of the way that it's coming off to me at some point. So I really liked Coils. I'm really glad that I did it, and I'm really glad at the timing that I did it too. So thanks to chat and the people that helped me make sure I'd do it at the right patch and everything.
Absolutely. I do want to say though that at the time ARR ended, only about 8% of the community had finished all of Coils.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to get through, and they did nerf it a bit after that in order to get more people through it and to view that content.
Yeah, I wasn't even able to do Coils during ARR. I got my clear of turn 9 barely, but I couldn't stay connected for the entire thing. Like, the internet routing was so bad during ARR with where the old NA data centers were that I would just get 90K'd every like 5 minutes.
Oh God.
So I had friends take me through turn 9 back in ARR, and they were like, yeah, we know you're going to DC, it's fine. I was just like, okay.
The twisters.
So about Coils, I had the opportunity to raid an ARR. I made it to Twintania in the first Coils, and we didn't clear in time. And the second tier I took off, but I did clear Bahamut before Echo was introduced. So that was a fun experience. I still have Facebook pics from our clear group, and it's just it was I'm not sure if it's still my favorite experience, but for many years it was my favorite raid clear across, I don't know, 8 MMO titles. This was really fun to have that story completion, all the cutscenes, and then the final encounter to answers was really cool. I was so impressed.
And I'm told that like a lot of, they didn't really bring it out into the public like they were, like the community kind of held it in most aspects and was like, if you want to see it, you have to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
the community is surprisingly good about spoilers. There are occasionally really bad eggs in the community regarding spoilers, but for the most part, whether it's, on streams or YouTube or even in game, I've noticed that people are very strict with themselves and their individual communities about not spoiling anything. Like I've noticed, for example, on Twitter, whenever a new patch comes out, people will put in their username, 5.5 spoilers or whatever, and then the community comes up with all these tags that you can blacklist so that you don't get spoiled if you can't do the patch immediately.
Yeah.
Or they'll put it in code like Rot 13 or something like that.
So that you actually have to run it through the site.
Yeah. I think
Yes.
people are very invested in the story, and they remember how much they enjoyed experiencing these things for the first time. They work really hard to share that experience, and I think that's just great.
I think and one of the things that I tell people when I'm streaming is that a lot of the experience is having those people there to do it, like to talk about it and bounce ideas off of each other, and like get to experience it with people that are also excited and enjoying it. And I think that for me, like streaming the game is like it's like half the experience. The community is amazing. It's crazy.
Go ahead, Meowth.
Me? I wasn't going to say anything. I just.
I thought I heard you talking earlier. Anyways.
No, I was just thinking that we were it's true that for the most part the community is highly protective of everyone else who's going for the first time into the story about spoilers. And I've seen, of course, there's always some stupid idiot ruining things, but for the most part, you'll see the streamers themselves asking, "Please go emote mode."
Yep. Like I said, I love emote mode. It is very often used, and the mods in my channel surely do know when to use it as well, and I really appreciate that. I actually half my mods, I'd say, are actually from the 14 community. They weren't even mods before, but they were people that really love watching the stream and hanging out, and I brought them on board as mods, and they've just done an insanely good job at protecting me from spoilers as well, knowing when to use emote mode. And I think on that note, like that kind of strikes on a key that I wanted to hit, that I wanted to say at some point, is that the average player, it seems like in this game, actually like understands and has like a good grasp of the story more than in a game like WoW, like I would say for certain, because of how the story is presented to the players.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I just have to say, like it's extremely refreshing to know that even a lot of the average players and people viewing the stream know the story, so they know what not to spoil. Generally, it's super, super nice. As much as I'd like to say, as much as my mods do a great job in emote mode and all that stuff helps, a lot of people just know not to say things, and it's just really nice. Like someone, I'm sorry, I don't know the voices too well, but someone mentioned like there's a few bad eggs, and it's very, very few. Yeah, it's very few. I'm really surprised.
So
Yeah.
I just want to mention one thing. I despise multi-genre storytelling in the vein of, in order to understand this, you need to get some information from over here, and you read this book or watch this movie. And I really appreciate that. All you really need in this game is to play the game. Everything is right there. And if you want additional background, then you can go read the lore book, or you can go read the short stories, but you don't need it in order to understand what's going on in this game. And that's one of the things I really like about it.
And the short stories are free generally.
Yep.
Yes, that's in a game like WoW, like there's like 30 short stories. They're all free, but they don't like ever advertise them, and they're probably not revised, so there's going to be retcons in them, and it's just the cross media narratives literally just kill me. The amount of books, I don't know, dude. I spend so much money on WoW books. I can't.
But the problem, well, I wouldn't say necessarily a problem, but it's why people perhaps are more detached to that kind of narrative is because precisely your character in World of Warcraft hardly matters at all.
Yeah, it's like you're more there to like witness the narrative than to be a part of it.
You're basically the spectator that conveniently kills things, but then you get zero credit for your work, and you're like, okay, fine, everyone else is being loaded, but by what I basically did, which doesn't happen again in 14 and much, and I mean.
And then they call you champion anyway.
And even
champion.
Oh, champion! Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't want to hear that again.
I've seen actually more respect, even more than in 14. I've seen more respect to the player characters in Guild Wars 2 again, because you're the fucking commander.
I definitely yeah.
At least the Maelstrom doesn't go around telling its soldiers to go zug zug.
True. I just I need to step away for just one moment.
Sure.
Feel free.
Fine.
Puppy aggro.
That's what I was going
I'll
to say.
just take
puppy
a moment
aggro.
to say what I was trying to say earlier. What he was saying about the average players being interested in it. I'm actually in a raiding group myself. We're not like super hardcore or anything crazy. We just like to do fights together and have fun and die a bunch. But like last night after we finished raid, a couple of us went to go run a dungeon because someone needed a piece of gear. So we just smashed a dungeon, talked lore, like legit. We were just chatting about lore, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, so what about this? What about that?" Because I've sort of studied it a tiny bit. And we had a great time.
I also think that a lot of what we were saying earlier about how, there's emotional investment in the development of not only the player character, but just the random NPCs in town, that the fetch quests are helping these people. And I think that goes a long way towards getting the player invested in what's going on and really making the story meaningful and matter to them so that it has that emotional weight. And actually, one of the ways that this podcast got started was, we were hanging out on Twitch watching people go through the game for the first time. So, you can only go through the game first time once, but seeing that emotional investment pay off on people's faces as they play the game was just so gratifying, especially once they got to the Bloody Banquet at the end of ARR, and just watching them scream and yell and just cheer and yell. It was such a good payoff. And I never get tired of watching it. Every time someone gets there for the first time, I will always stop everything and I will watch that.
It's why there's so many reaction videos on YouTube. It's not even just as an ARR. It's the following expansions too. Just like whenever someone actually gets there and is not spoiled on things too. Like the thing about streamers is they have so many followers. And, just one slip of the tongue from their viewers and they can get spoiled on it. And there goes the reaction. But if they're not spoiled on it, they can have a genuine, heartfelt reaction to a moment that harkens back to the time that we had when we first played it. And it just kind of brings back those memories in us too.
And
I think that's really cool. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I meant that even these reactions, we know that the developers actually watch them, so it's even better.
Yes, they have confirmed they do watch the reactions.
They do? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, I think it's cool that like the story is done in such a way that like you can, even for new players, you can still kind of like rely upon the fact that they're going to get excited and they're going to react to those same things that you did. It's really nice to have something that is narratively stable in that aspect. I really enjoy that.
I did want to add one thing, actually.
Go ahead,
no
Val.
problem, Yoth. So regarding the short stories, it's really nice to have them, and they're not at all necessary to understand the bulk of the story. But except for one, but I still highly recommend everyone keep up with it as you progress through the story. And I was conscious that Pyro's not finished Heavensward yet. There are excellent stories post MSQ for Heavensward. Definitely read them. But I also found the ARR ones, and their website is formatted horribly. But there were actually 5 stories from the Calamity that I actually haven't leafed through, but I did find them. So I just wanted to encourage everyone to check out the short stories because they're good solid content. Not mandatory.
I'll link them in the
however.
chat.
Yeah, I would definitely check them out if I have a link.
Have you seen what all the 14 devs have gone over in terms of when they rose back from the ashes as a new game? What they had learned. They spoke about it at a fan fest. What all they had learned from their failure and what they promised moving forward. Have you seen that?
I don't believe so. I don't think I've seen that.
So I'm going to go ahead and go over a few of these. This was set at a fan fest. This was to display in front of all the players and viewers, show what they had learned from 1.0's launch with the launch of 2.0 and
So
what they're.
I want to
ahead.
stop you for a second. It wasn't a fan fest. It was actually GDC.
Was it GDC? Okay, never mind. Game Developers Conference. It looked like it, but so
That makes
first and
sense.
foremost, they made the statement that running an MMORPG is like running a country. 1. If the dev team is the government, the players are the citizens. If a citizen disapproves of your policies, they'll move to Canada. Number 2, clarity, vision, and willingness to listen are the keys to success. Without these, the government devolves into a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Number 3, let's learn to listen and adapt. A complaint is worth twice a compliment. The silent always leave first. If the citizens are complaining, it means they still care. 4, creators must be players in their own realms. If the leaders don't live there, why would their subjects?
Are you saying that players complaining doesn't mean that they don't know what they want?
Yes, absolutely.
Holy shit.
Sorry, I had to.
Heresy! By
Wait,
the
that happens?
fury, condemn this man for his heresy!
That's
Hilarious take.
that's so
Hilarious
good.
take.
That's so good.
Is that all of them?
No, there's more. There
So
are 3
the link-
easy. Go ahead.
The link that I posted is all of the short stories that are available for free. There is a book that they had released called The Chronicles of Light that had some unique short stories to it, but it's not currently available anywhere. I haven't even been able to find it in English on eBay.
Oh. That's tough.
There are
Fortunately,
3
the stories in them are available with some Google foo.
Yeah, because some people
Okay.
did
Okay.
thankfully transcribe it to like Reddit and whatever, but those are also like post Stormblood stories.
It appears to be available in pounds.
Oh, did they restock it?
Well, this is what I've been running into when I was trying to pick up the one of the statues that they had released. I didn't end up getting it and won't be spoiling it, but I was going to get a statue and I found it on EU, but NA and it was sold out. So they keep it in stock apparently, but I don't know why. Anyway, etc.
Oh, that's the German version.
Yeah. Is it?
Ich spreche nicht Deutsch.
So, the 3 easy steps to failure: an unhealthy obsession with graphic quality, a surprising lack of MMORPG knowledge amongst development team members, and the mindset that the solution to every problem could be patched in a future update.
Yeah, it sounds like you're describing the World of Warcraft team.
It's not on
Yeah.
purpose.
Wait till you hear this next one. There's 4 more. What we have learned: never forget the fans. Without them, there would be no us. 2, fun comes first. If it isn't fun, you're doing it wrong. 3, never back down. Always aim to amaze. 4, don't forget your roots. It's what fans crave.
Yep.
Going forward with this mentality, the Realm Reborn and subsequent future expansions have just enthralled and impressed all of the players, just overall as a whole. And it's what brought players to the Realm Reborn to begin with. I mean, some people wanted to give ARR 2.0 another chance. Some people just said, I can't do this anymore. It's just going to be another failure. And they had to make these kinds of promises to say, hey, we've learned from our mistakes. It's not going to happen again. And you now see the lessons that they have learned.
Yeah, it's nice to actually see. It's crazy, dude. It's almost like they write their characters in a similar way to how they run their company. It's like, if we're doing shitty things and we realize we're doing shitty things, we should stop doing shitty things. And if the players complain about shitty things, we should stop doing those shitty things. And then if we don't do shitty things and do good things, then we'll be great. but they just learn and they like apologize and they adapt and like it's nice because
It feels
you can,
nice, doesn't it?
trust them. Like yeah, you can like trust them and you don't feel like you're just holding out fucking hope for them to do something better and they don't for like 5 years.
It helps that they got rid of their old CEO.
Yeah.
I will say, I think one thing Final Fantasy does well is that they understand the difference between players say, I don't like this, I don't want this, that needs to go. And, hey, I want this, hey, I want that. Well, do you really? You know, because
Yeah. You think
people
you
do
do.
not know what they want. Like, I know this from personal experience as well as a lot of life experience. I think I want this, I get it. Oh, it wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah,
When you complain and you don't like
there
you
is a
need
piece
it.
of content like that.
Sorry. Indeed.
This actually reminds me. I had a my old college roommate would always make fun of me for playing Warcraft. He was one of those EQ guys. Anyway, he thought that the loot system was just so. I didn't agree, but the idea was just players want you to just mail the loot to your Yahoo account. But if you give players too many freebies, the importance of actually playing the game, enjoying the game, immersion, the ability to form strong memories, bonding with the game at all. There's too many freebies. You lose the essence of
You have to keep it true at the core. Keep it true to what it is. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, that's probably inevitable. I would think.
So
But-
players may want ease, but you need some degree of challenge to make you actually love the game. That kind of concept.
Yeah. If you just roll over it, it's not gonna feel. Yeah, you won't feel any sense of investment.
Game management, just like they said, comparing game management with running a country is basically like shepherding a bunch of mad sheep. You have to the sheep don't know what they want, so you kind of have an idea of what they need. So it's kind of okay. Sometimes you have to listen to. People complain that developers listen to the majority. Well, of course they will listen to the majority. it's like there's some comments that minor things, and you're like, well, if it's something they can do, of course. They've done actually before fixing minor things that I think, what was it, at FanFest? Someone actually brought up in a Q&A some, I don't actually recall which minor fix it was, but they said, okay, we hadn't thought of that shouldn't be difficult to address because it was a minor thing. But for things like story direction, UI changes and stuff, it's like, of course they're going to listen to the majority. What do you expect? You can't run a country or the game population based on the minority. It's just pure logic.
Yeah, and I think it's important to like consider majorities, but also like not try to spread yourself too thin to also please all of the different minorities. And I think that that's an example of like something that World of Warcraft has done that I think has really been a detriment to their game. And what I don't really see happening as much here, or here it kind of exists here, but in a better way, like a more kind of stable way. Where like I guess what I'm saying is in World of Warcraft, like they try to cater to literally everybody, but not just in the aspect of like activities to do. They're trying to like balance the gear and things like that around it, and they're trying. I don't know. It's so it's really good that this game strikes a good balance between the different aspects, and it does focus the majority on certain like issues, and it also does also try to make everybody else happy, but in a more healthy way than something like WoW.
I mean, they know. I think their comment on that was. I don't know if they commented. I actually don't recall. You'll correct me, but I think they actually. You don't. I mean, we can't please everyone. So if you don't like the game, go play another game. Something along those lines. So the developers actually know, and it's actually a rather practical stance, so to speak, because it's true to life. You can please everyone. You're still with it.
Just have to do the best you can.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Pyro, you mentioned that you started in Limsa Lominsa. I wanted to get your thoughts. What do you think about Merlewhip?
Dude, great character. I really like that character. I think she's and I honestly really miss her A Realm Reborn VA. But
We all
the
do.
Heavensward one is also really good. So yeah, that was a really nice, like, powerful, like, lasting impression character to be introduced to pretty early on. I really like how the different faction leaders have completely different outlooks on kind of how they run their nation, and obviously in places like Ul'dah compared to Limsa Lominsa, the way that that's structured, like, politically and socially, is vastly different, right? And I think that the leaders, like, Merlva, do a great job to kind of illustrate that summarized in, like, a person that can really represent, like, the place where you are. And there, I think Raban also, does a great job of that. Nanamo, there's all, there's leaders for every section that are like that. So yeah, I like Merlin a lot. Good character.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I do think that the city-state leaders are kind of a nutshell of what each city-state represents.
Yeah, and I think that it's nice to have that kind of personified in a character, and kind of contained in that way. And you can, I really, I like that you can kind of see that reflected in those around you and their attitudes, and you can kind of see, like, in the people who work closely around her, that they, I don't know. I've very much enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I picked Limsa.
The
She
same.
swallows all.
You
That's
beat me
right.
to it.
Yeah, see, LL, people think it stands for Lorelines, but it really stands for Limsa Lominsa. dude.
Nah.
Nice.
Oh,
I wanted to joke
yeah.
about another thing, but I'm not going to go into it.
That's fine. So, what did you when you got to level 15 and you started going out to the other city states after having experienced the best city?
Yeah.
What was your
True.
impression of just kind of? Did you have any kind of culture shock when you got into those other cities, or was it kind of
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, this is kind of there's the same underlying current, or tell me a little bit about that.
I feel like there were certain underlying currents for issues like primals. It kind of seems like the majority of people kind of have the same outlook on that, and so I guess that's not necessarily true. There are those who live, like, or know of primals that exist in typically a more peaceful manner, like Ramu, for instance. But, like, generally, I guess the outlook on primals from those main city states is pretty much the same. So that kind of being uniform was good to, like, kind of further establish the idea that, like, oh, the primals are a threat and nobody really likes them, so we're going to continue to have to be concerned about that. But I also did get that kind of culture shock going into, like, Ul'dah and seeing, how people treat each other, and how things are much more, like, transactional there, and a little bit more sleuthy. And you see some, maybe some crazy shit depending on the time of night you go there. So
You are
so
on Crystal.
I
I
was
am on Crystal. So yeah, there was definitely some of that. I think that I really enjoy Limsa and Ul'dah. I think Gridania it's a nice, like, change of scenery, because I love fantasy forest lands in general, but yeah, I did kind of experience a little bit of that shock going from one to the next.
And now that since you've actually entered Heavensward, now we would have to add your impressions on Ishgard.
Oh
If you
yeah,
may, of course.
yeah. Oh, Ishgard, like,
First impressions, anyways.
Yes.
I didn't really know what to expect. Like, I guess I thought that they were this, like, I mean, and they are, in some aspects, but, like, this high, haughty, like, nothing's going to touch us. Like, we're gonna have this absolutely fucking pristine city where, like, the dragons could never, get in there or whatever. And then the first fucking thing you see is Iceheart being like, nope. So you learn about this barrier being breached. It's literally never happened. Like, we get into the city, and the people that live down in the Foundation are just basically trash to the people that live in the upper parts of the city. It's like they don't even exist. Like, the whole way that the schooling system there works, where, like, in order to join the fucking like to be a scholar of the church, you basically have to be able to pass like rigorous initial exams that only those that are going to be part of the higher like the higher families are even going to have access to, and it's such like a sad fucked up representation of real life. It's like so fucked up.
I was
And
on
I'm
his
like,
stream at this point. I was.
the more that I'm like watching, the more that I'm like reading things and moving throughout the city, I'm like, oh my god, dude, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Like this is a theocracy out of control. This is these like what's happening to the people in the Foundation is so fucked up. The way that they are basically indoctrinating these people and brainwashing them in the Holy See, from what I'm seeing anyway, that's kind of what they're doing. Like it's, I don't know, dude. It's really unsettling, but it's I don't know. It's a little dark, and I like it, and I like that it brings in characters like Astinian, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's gorgeous. I'll say that the design is beautiful. The music is fantastic. I had like a welcome party when I fucking went there, which was the most insane thing I've ever experienced in any game. So yeah, Ishgard has been and I'll finish with this. It's been a giant step in quality above A Realm Reborn. The VA being different is obviously a significant improvement. I do miss Lorthamar's VA from Urianger, I'll say that, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall Ishgard is awesome, and I love that it's not turned out to be what I was expecting.
I mean, it's impossible. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's impossible to not miss Gideon Emery as Urianger. He's a legend of voice acting.
Yes, Gideon is so good. And, you know, one other thing as well is that, as far as going into Ishgard, I think it's been a great example of something that makes you kind of question, what side you're fighting for. Kind of makes you question the things that you're doing, and who are you supporting? The people that would allow this type of travesty to happen to the people down in the Foundation and bring no aid to them. Like why am I helping you? That's just kind of fucked up.
So I do want to address that. I noticed on Mog Talk yesterday, you said, you're not going to stop asking questions. People just need to pick which ones to answer. I want to encourage you to keep asking questions. We're not going to answer any of them, but more questions should lead to more questions. And I think that's an absolutely good thing. And please keep doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
I wanted to add something. If you
go ahead.
No, I don't.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
No, you're good. I ramble.
From a 1.0 perspective. So I am a legacy player. I do pay the $10 sub. I do have a tattoo. I don't have the cutscenes. I didn't beat the story in 1.0. But one of my favorite experiences of 1.0 is saying, leave quests are stupid, I'm going to go explore. And so I traveled on foot from Limsa to the ferry. I took the 15-minute boat over to Ul'dah. I ran across the sands. I went north into the forest, and I found my way through the 4-zone labyrinth, and accidentally went into Kurthus. And what struck me immediately was the change of scenery. Back then, it was like a rock-strewn, very green and gray landscape, sunny but with cloud cover, and it had this Final Fantasy VI like wind track in the background. Just blowing wind, right? And the mournful song Unspoken playing. And when you journeyed through Kurthus in 1.0, you eventually came to Camp Dragonhead. You crossed the big bridge, not the way we go in now, but the big bridge where there's a trial. You cross that on foot, you go north of Dragonhead, and you see the city across the ravine. And the gate's locked. So from 2011, whenever 1.0 came out.
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
Until Heavensward, we were always wondering, what is that city in the middle of the Sea of Clouds? What is it? What are they like? Man, I want to go there.
Yeah, I have some of my
So there was
screenshots
hype.
Still from 1.0 of
There was hype
Kurthus
build
at
up.
nighttime with Dalmud in the night sky above Ishgard from way back when.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, I need to recover it off my hard drive.
So from that to then encountering the highborn, lowborn cluster mess theocracy was quite a shock, but it was always amazing to cross the bridge that first time. So I just wanted to, that was my perspective going into Heaven's Ward, was like,
that's another cutscene I will always watch, is people going into Ishgard for the first time. When that title pops up, it's just such a powerful moment. It's the perfect mix of visuals and sound design for me. It gets me every time.
Yeah,
That
I
actu-
thoroughly enjoyed the intro to Ishgard. Go ahead, Neela.
Oh, I was just going to say that actually leads into a little something that I wanted to touch on briefly. I love that they don't strictly get political, but they absolutely bring in real life elements that are not perfect, not pristine, not necessarily good. And it makes us look at our own world in another way and go, is that really how we want to be? Is this how we look to outsiders? And I think it's wonderful in a game to have that.
Yeah, to kind of have that, like, I think anything that makes you kind of turn around and be a little bit introspective, I think is a really good thing. I think like introspection and like critical thinking are honestly kind of like Meowth alluded to earlier, like they're things that aren't traditionally practiced in schools and taught to people as they're, you know, I don't know, like they're things that I think that it's really nice that the game is a strong proponent of.
Yeah,
I think obviously they're very important.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, I think it's the major point and the true purpose of art. We make art because it's beautiful. Video games are art. Don't at me. I'll fight for hours on that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
It's like multimedia art. It's so many different arts all blended together. Anyway, yeah, don't get me started.
It's like
You know,
mega art.
I really think, like, obviously it's for entertainment, it's for enjoyment, but it also makes us think, and that's so important.
Yeah,
Good art should do that.
I also think to the point of like that Ishgard experience, like it's really cool that obviously it was impactful enough that you can harken back to it in that way and have that kind of description for it. I think that even in the way that it exists now, thinking back to, I guess it would have been like 2.5 and 2.55. That I guess even really earlier on, like like when you first kind of venture into Kurthus, you actually do get a glimpse.
Yeah.
You do get a glimpse of Ishgard, and I remember seeing it and thinking kind of those same kind of questions of like, what is it like there? I wonder if you walk in there, if like everyone's, you know, a crazy religious zealot wearing like white robes and their city is fucking paved with like marble. Like I don't know what's in there. Like I just know that they have an archbishop, and it's you know. So you still have those questions even as a newer player. Obviously, I didn't have to wait nearly as long as you did, but you know. Kind of getting to see that they still have an effective way of, even in short term, drawing that mystique and allure and that question of what's really over there. So it was really cool to be able to step in the first time and go like, oh shit, this is what this is about over here. And yeah, I really enjoyed that experience.
Speaking of 2.55, I will also want to hear your impressions of Midgardsormr, because I knew you were.
Did you
were
read
stuck
my
on
mind?
That. I knew you were stuck on that for a minute, and seeing that initial incident,
yeah. So, are you talking about when he gets rid of my my blessing of light? Is that what you're talking about?
Pretty much everything about it.
Yeah. So, let me.
He's got to flip to the page.
Yeah. Because I have a section here where Iceheart says the same thing that Midgardsormr says. It's a quote that says, "The son must answer for the father's misdeeds. Only then will the cycle be broken." They both say that, but yeah, I don't know. It made me like question like what is the connection between Midgardsormr and Hydaelyn? Like, what is this pact that he refers to? Like, when and how was it made? You know, when he refers to the chorus, you know, growing louder, I'm assuming that he's referring to, like, in some capacity, like because I know it's called the Dragon Song War, so it kind of coming to its peak, like we're approaching the inevitable like grand conflict that's going to happen. And then like I wrote down all the quotes. So let's see. Something about like Lucia mentioning that the dragon star burned with an intensity that hasn't been seen in 15 summers.
That's a fun subject as well.
Yeah, so by her gift has thou earned a moment's reprieve. Speak, mortal, and I shall listen. So, and then he says, guided by a. Oh wait. guided by a star? ? My people have heard this song. Ishgard shall burn. Sons must answer for their father's misdeeds. We do not forget. We do not forgive. 7 children did I sire. 1 now singeth of retribution, which I would assume is Nidhogg. And then there's arise to join in the chorus. So he's talking about obviously, I'm assuming the dragons. Thou art powerless to silence us, mortal, yet thou shalt not live to labor in vain. Thy reprieve is at an end. And then I don't know, like the whole thing. Trickery is thy shield. This frail, ignoble creature is not gifted, but chosen. Hearken to me, Heidelin, I remember and I consent. Fear not, mortal, I shall not harm thee. And then he shoots a fucking gold orb beam of light. And then I wrote in big capital letters, underlined with like 6 exclamation points, crystals are all deactivated.
Nice.
And then it says, I did but strip thee of the mistress's feeble blessing. So I don't know how, like I still don't understand how that happened or necessarily why. So I'm still, and I'm at the point in the story where I'm trying to piece together like what's the why is Midgardsormr going around with me right now? Like, why? Like, how is this connected to Iceheart? Like, why are they saying the same things? Like, obviously, Iceheart, wanting to fight for like the peace between man and dragon, I'm assuming has something to do with it. But he keeps talking about this chorus growing louder. I don't know. I'm still very confused about exactly what Heidelin is trying to accomplish and how it's all connected. But yeah.
So what I'm hearing is pattern recognition gone haywire.
Concern.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted to hear personally.
Yeah,
That is
same.
perfect.
Honestly, one of my favorite things about the story in this game is it encourages you to ask questions and just there's so many things you can question. But not only that, the fact that they answer so much of it actually just playing the story is so appreciated. Because I get so frustrated whether it's books or TV shows or other games when you have all these questions and either they don't get answered or they get answered in something else.
Yeah, and I think that keeping it cohesive in a place that you can actually get the whole experience is absolutely fucking essential to the enjoyment and understanding of the story. Like, and that just goes back to like transmedia narratives and stuff where you have 30 fucking novels that people have to go through, and it's just no one can keep up with that. So I think that you definitely can develop that greater appreciation for the narrative when it's given to you in that way. There's even more. By the way, there's even more quotes. That's only half the fucking quotes.
Yeah.
So So one thing that he said. So I'll read the rest of these. There's not that many more. There's like 5. So the covenant, and I circled that, binds me to thee. So part of okay. So I guess that answers one of my questions. I guess I just need to read my notes back. That's what they're for. That's why Midgardsormr is following us around. I shall watch, listen, and wait. I drink of her body, and then doth mine find new life. Mine own find new life, rather. When it hath grown whole, the loyal and penitent shall rejoice. So it sounds like he's going to regenerate to full anyway. So I'm not sure what I don't fucking know. The dragon song heraldeth a beginning and an end. I really like this because I know that there's some different musical pieces for each expansion. And I know that there's like the Heavensward theme, and then there's also the dragon song. I don't believe that I've read the lyrics to the dragon song yet, but I know that there's a draconic portion of Heavensward that isn't translated until later. And I have the non-translated version that has the draconic speak not translated so that I'm not spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea that like maybe I'm too hopeful here, but what I've experienced in Heavensward so far is that the children of Hraelsvelgr are not interested in the war with man. Like, it seems like they want peace. Like, all of his children that I've run into so far are like, yeah, we pretty much it sounds like they miss that relationship essentially. And so when Midgardsormr says the dragon song herald at the beginning and an end, I have to wonder, like, an idea that went through my head was I like the idea that it's like, because it sounds almost like menacing. If you read it in a certain way, the dragon song heraldeth a beginning and an end. And I think a lot of people, when they hear like and an end, I think that tacked on at the end can make it sound like a negative thing is going to happen. But I just sort of like the take that like the dragons, like the end would actually be the end of the war, the end of the 1,000-year war, and the beginning of peace. But the way that it's worded almost makes it sound like something is going to happen and then it's also going to end. But anyway, just kind of my take on something that he said that I hope ends up becoming true, because I do want a union between man and dragon so far. That's what I've decided anyway.
I have to say, I'm so glad that you actually look at the lyrics for the different songs in this game. A lot of people don't do that, and it drives me crazy.
It's weird for me because WoW doesn't have a lot of that. Like, WoW doesn't have a lot of lyrical meaning in general. And so it's different for me. Like, I'm not used to, like, I love music, and so it's not like I've never read music lyrics, but I've never done any type of like music analysis or anything. And so I don't really,
No, it's just that, I mean, if you've never done music analysis,
14 will change that.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's
I see.
what I'm getting into, is like it's hard. Like, it's kind of it's a new thing for me. So that's been a particular challenge, because I definitely am not used to it. And there's people using terms and I'm like, I don't know even what the fuck that means. So yeah, it's been, and I know that the is it Silken who does the song?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Silken does the music, and
Koji
then
have worked together, so
yeah.
I know that I appreciate the literal art that it is, but the literary art that it is, but it is a very new thing for me. But I love doing it. It's important, obviously.
I wanted to add a couple things on that
It was
topic
a song
as well.
that's sung by Heidelin, for Christ's sake.
Exactly. Like, Answers is such a good song, and you can read it
Yeah.
3 ways. You really can, at least 3. It's really interesting.
And
Yeah.
please do not watch the Answers video I put out on our channel the
Oh,
other
yeah,
day,
don't-
because
don't.
it has
Oh, I don't watch any
spoilers
lore.
too present.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't watch
There's
any
lyrics.
lore at all.
Good call.
Good.
Yeah, very good call.
The songs, I don't know if this has always been the case, but typically Square Enix will release the lyrics if the song is associated with an encounter at the end of that patch. Like, when the next patch comes out. Isn't that right, Bon?
Yeah, it's roughly like that. Sometimes they're inconsistent, but they
Mhm.
typically, like, if there's lyrics in any of the songs, they get released either on the dev blog or, like with Answers, on the forums, and then they move to the dev blog after that. But there are some of the songs where the lyrics weren't released until certain arrangement albums. So, like, I have a OneDrive that has the lyrics of every song in the game, including from the different albums they've released, because some of those are in Latin.
Oh,
So I can't, understand it without, just by hearing it. But the lyrics in 14 are something I've harped on about since around the first time I heard Answers, which for me was in 1.0. So, like, I have a very different relationship with Answers than most of the people here.
Right.
I bristle and I want to go hide under something when I hear Answers, because the version that they played in all of the 1.0 zones as Dalmud was coming down is so creepy that I can't break that connection in my brain. Like, I won't go and listen to Answers unless I absolutely have to, because it creeps
it'll just
me
forever
out.
bother you.
Yes,
the
it
original?
bothers me
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah, that song, like, a lot of people have asked me to read it, and I've read through it several times. And as I get further in the game, I'm trying to understand what it's saying to me. I think I understand, like, who is singing different parts. I think, like, obviously Heidelin is singing some of it, and then I think it's like the people of Eorzea singing another part of it. But at any rate, like, it's been interesting to not only have that presented to me in a way that it's like, oh, this is actually worth looking at. This is interesting. Like, maybe there's actually like a deeper meaning to the song here. but the fact that it's like continuously revisited in the actual game is also nice as well. The fact that it's so prevalent, I guess, throughout the actual experience of playing the game is nice, because it kind of just brings you back to it when you haven't thought about it in a while, and it kind of makes you think again, like, okay, since the last time that I've heard this song, like, what have I learned? Like, what are some of the things that have come across the desk, and are there any lessons that maybe, is there any interactions that maybe Heidelin was involved with, or someone that's connected with Heidelin was involved with, that I should consider when I read the lyrics? Like, I think with everything, especially in music, there's deeper nuance rather than just the surface value of words. I'm struggling to find it, but that's kind of the process of how I'm trying to get there.
And it's really cool too, because I think the way they use the main themes in the games and some of the other motifs is it adds another layer of continuity to the overarching story in a way that I haven't seen other games do.
Yeah, with that kind of consistent thematic presence there, I think that's a great way to do it, especially if you're concluding, your Shadowbringer storylines or anything, like any of the most recent stuff, if any of it's concluded with Heidelin or anything that's even in relation to that kind of song, then I think that if you can use a piece of music to have a bridge over 8 years of content, 10 years of content, that continuity is invaluable, and it really goes a long way for the player when they hear it.
It really does.
It's
I will also say I do recommend looking into the lyrics of Trial Encounters as well, if you haven't done that already.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Someone already posted him Ravana's lyrics, I think, the other day.
Yeah, I read Ravana's. I've read Midgardsormr's Encounter music. I think he had some. I've read Titans. I've read Garuda's. I try to read. I try to read most of them. Yeah, I did Shiva. Ramu, I believe I read. I don't recall if I read Odin's, but or if Odin had one.
Odin doesn't have lyrics.
So that would be okay. Yeah, I guess that would be
Leviathan
but
has lyrics, but it's very simple.
Yeah.
I like revisiting those lyrics later on as I learn more about the primals, and in my perspective on the beast tribes, as we call them, kind of changes, and I start to consider, a lot of these, and this is pointed out to you later in the story, like a lot of these beast tribes acted out of necessity, right? And that was one thing that kind of set Ravana apart, was that it wasn't out of necessity, it was just out of desire, essentially. And it kind of makes me think back to, like, okay, when we look at these beast tribes and how they're summoning their gods, essentially because their land is either being encroached upon, or they were attacked and deceived into thinking that it was someone that it wasn't, or whatever the case might be, where they're calling upon these primals. It just makes me think, like, when I read the lyrics of the songs, it just kind of lends itself to what are they trying to say, like, through the song, like. And some of the like, it seems to me, unless I'm interpreting them incorrectly, a lot of the songs are like kind of sad, like something bad has happened to them, and I guess I can understand it, because in a sense it sort of has, but it just, I don't know, it makes me think about it a little bit more. It makes me develop a little bit of a sense of empathy for creatures that in the game are referred to as beasts, and most people are terrified of, and so I really like the trial music as well. That's something I absolutely intend to keep looking into.
On that topic now, on the topic of beast tribes at least, what do you think of the primals and the Ascian intervention in all this?
You mean how the Ascians have kind of been like responsible for like half of the fucking primals being summoned?
That too.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that the Ascian involvement is very curious. Obviously, who they stand for is a gigantic fucking thing in this game, because Zodiark, for all intents and purposes, from what I can see, seems to be like kind of the opposite or pair to Heidelin in some capacity. I mean, they're literally just two big fucking crystals that are the opposite colors of one another. Not opposite colors, but you know what I mean. So, like, as far as the fact that they're immortal and I don't even know how old, like, fuck, they could in essence, in some capacity, be nearly as old as Zodiark for all I know. Like, who and how old is that? Like, what even is that thing? As far as their involvement in the primals, I mean, they seem pretty intent on doing one thing, and that's sowing chaos. But they also seem to be pretty expectant that you're going to succeed. They're like trying to gauge you, like the fucking Lich King, for like something that's like coming. I don't know. The Ascians I find very, very intriguing and some of the most interesting characters, to be frank, so far anyway. But I've always kind of like those mysterious factions that kind of they give you those little quotes where it's like, what the fuck did that guy just say? The rejoining, and then you learn from Moonbrita later that like they're talking about dimensional compression, and you start to think about what is that implying? Like, what the fuck is going on? So I love the Ascians in that regard. As far as how they tie in with the primals, it's been interesting. Like, I think there's been like 3 or 4 different primals where you end up learning that the Ascians taught them how to do the summoning, or like, you know, I think that the Ascians were partially responsible for King Mogul being summoned. Pretty sure for Ravana being summoned. Pretty sure that they were a part of Titan and Ifrit being summoned. But anyway, their involvement is interesting. I only just learned about she's the first female Ascian that I've been introduced to. I can't remember her name though.
Igyorm.
Igyorm, thank you. So yeah. Yeah, the Ascians are cool. I have lots of notes on them. If there's something that the Ascians say, I write it down every single time. There's like nothing that they say that I don't write down. So
Nice.
so that's pretty much.
I'll bonk each one of you.
Hey, I didn't say anything horny yet.
And
Yeah.
and I'm even trying to like take note of like their sanctuary, like the chrysalis, and what it is there a meaning behind why it's named that. I noted that there were 14 Ascian pedestals in there and a freaky fucking statue that I can only assume is Zodiark. In like maybe a more physical manifestation, but I have no idea. I'm glad that Nabriales was the first one to die because his voice was annoying as fuck.
Oh, like a
Unfortunate.
Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Yeah, dude, he was just.
How
Pyro,
unfortunate.
It's hard to believe that it's the same voice actor as Urianger.
Yeah, he's Gideon Emery.
No way, dude.
One thing, what a piece of trivia about Nabrialis that I think is funny is Gideon Emery was Balthier's voice actor in Final Fantasy XII, and Nabrialis is designed after Balthier.
I did not know that.
It's just a
wanted to-
fun little nod.
Yeah, it's so yeah, maybe I don't know if that answers your question about that, but yeah, Ascians.
Who's your favorite Ascian so far?
I kind of like Elidibus just because of his different kind of like. I think he's like a pretty good contrast to La Habrea, where La Habrea is a little bit more like just get out there, get in your face, like try to get shit. Well, I don't know. I guess Nabrialis was more like that, I suppose, but I don't know. I think Elidibus just because he wears the white robe and he seems a little bit more like intelligently menacing, if that makes sense. Like he seems like more like the
Yeah.
kind of guy that's really gonna outsmart me and make me fuck myself over. Where La Habrea is more like the guy that might be a little bit more reckless and leave himself a little bit more vulnerable than someone like Elidibus. So I would probably say La Habrea or Elidibus, but probably the latter.
Yeah,
cosplayed
Litibus
La
was
Habrea.
definitely my favorite in ARR. I was so intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of ARR, you only really meet like two or three of them.
That's 3, yeah.
Yeah, that are actually named. I think there's like one cutscene where you get to see a 4th speaking, but I don't think you ever actually interact with that Ascian.
There are some
But-
battle sequences with,
yeah, there's
with
about
black
4.
masked lobies.
Yeah, in
Oh, right,
2.3. Yeah.
Right, that's right. And then you have the paragons above them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah.
So going off of that, why don't we go into the most heated topic of the most recent heated topic, the Bloody Banquet.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was pretty easy going up until that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, like, and I'm not necessarily typically a fan of any type of political drama, but the way that they made me despise Teleji Adeleji, like, really got me invested. And I was like, you know what, dude? Like, the drama with the Sultana is actually interesting. And Nanamo, you know, like, rescinding her throne or whatever the fuck the word. What's the word they use?
Renouncing.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, whatever the fuck. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. That was like something that you don't see very often, is the emperor actually or empress actually going to step down. And then,
Sorry.
Yes,
yeah,
abdicate.
that's the one. Abdicate. Thank you. And then having the assassination attempt, and then Adeleji immediately walking in the room. I just wanted to punch my monitor. I was like, I wanted to smash my monitor. This fucking guy.
That's a fucking mood, Jesus.
Dude, and then he just sits there accusing you and sounds so snide and fucking snarky, and you're just like, you have no idea what you're talking about, you little fucking rat. You obviously set me up. Like, you are gonna fucking pay for this. But at the same time, it's so fucking crazy because I hated that fucking character and I wanted him to die. But then after Raban kills him, I almost sort of felt bad. Like I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like makes me question it. I'm like, as much as I fucking hated him, should he have just been decapitated? Probably not. Like, that's probably not the way that we should have handled that. Was it exciting and cool for Raban? Yeah, of course. But like, and then finding out later on that it was a ploy by Lolorito to get Teleji out of his way. I fucking love that. Like, I love that. But like, as much as I don't like Lolorito, it's still like, oh, wow, that there's actually some like deeper thought going on here. This isn't. This isn't plain as day. Like, I really, really liked it. I will say, I know that it tried to warn me, with no actual estimate for how much time it was going to take. But the 45 minutes of cutscenes was pretty nice. I got to.
Please set aside enough time.
I mean,
yeah, it's like, what is enough? I said this to Anonymous. I was like, what is enough time? Like, what does that mean?
15 minutes to an hour, Anyway,
yeah, pretty much.
Have ample time, like whatever.
It used to be especially bad because when you got the credit roll before, the credits used to not be skippable, or else you would also skip the post-credits cutscenes. So you would have to watch the entirety of the credits for A Realm Reborn.
Yes, the Guinness World Record holder for longest credits.
Yeah.
I still do that out of respect for the titles. Like, for some reason, even though it's skippable, I still watch the end credits when I finish a Porto.
Is it because you're in the credits?
No.
No.
It's true.
So,
yeah.
I do want to bring up the one thing about Teleji Adeleji being bisected by Raban. He was a shitlord, absolutely. But I think it evokes the right response. Yes, it's great to see him killed, but then as he's lying there, you're like, oh, you know what? This game has so many themes about redemption and people getting second chances, and he didn't get one. And I think that's a really interesting contrast, because when you finally get that, cathartic moment that he dies, then there's the hanging moment afterwards where you're like, oh, maybe this wasn't the right thing to do.
Did we just commit a murder?
He didn't even have a trial, which is actually what Lolorito accused Raban for of. What are you doing?
Oh, and he was guilty.
Yeah, he was guilty.
100%. I mean, and it's one of those things where you act in the moment, and then you're like, well, if we'd had more measured thought, then maybe we wouldn't have done that. And it's like, well, it's a good thing it's a fantasy game and no real people were hurt, because that would suck.
And it was kind of like, it honestly gave me a different perspective on Raban. You got to see that more like vicious gladiator side of him that has kind of been hardened into like a more, he's a general that doesn't have to exist in the same way that he did way back when he was ascending to become what he is now. And it kind of let you see that side of him a little bit. And all after the fact, I kind of was thinking like, no, dude, I like Raban, but like a little bit of a loose cannon there. Like what I hope that he learns something from this, because if he doesn't, then that's really going to suck, man. Like, this has been a very damaging thing for Raban, and it turns out, the Sultana's not even dead. So it almost made me a little afraid of him to an extent of like, man, when I next see this guy, how much is he going to be in fucking shambles? Like, what's gonna happen? So
I mean, he's already gotten a reminder of that mistake for a lifetime, which is losing his arm.
Yeah,
a constant
I love
reminder.
the title that we get for that, just as an aside.
I guess that is true. Yeah, it's quite literally a physical. Yeah.
I also think it's very interesting, like, what happens to him when you give him nothing left to lose, because that was, I think, a big mistake.
Yeah, when you take everything away from a man, put him in a corner, and torment him, there's only two things that's going to happen. He's either going to cower and torment, or he's going to bite back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's, unfortunately, you push someone into that.
Unfortunate.
Elbert has
But-
some great lines in that scene, honestly.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It was me.
And the freaking one about a bull that can't rut is fit for naught but slaughter.
Yeah,
That
I was like, oh
took
my
me
god.
aback. Yeah.
So
I was like,
that
oh,
was the
dude,
point in the game where I was like, I can't believe this game just said that.
that's
And-
brutal.
Yeah.
I hear that. Yeah, dude. Actually, that really. I'm so glad you actually said that quote, because that was one of those moments in that set of cutscenes where I was like, "Holy fuck! Did he actually just say that? Like, damn, dude, that's insane." But it's I love it because it, like, that type of visceral reaction that you get to those things, that the way that characters behave, because it's, again, it comes back to like, is it believable? And that whole sequence of cutscenes is completely believable, and I think that's why I didn't mind sitting there for 45 minutes and watching it. And I mean, it did give me a break from actually having to provide content for my stream as well, which was good. But yeah, it was a different kind of experience. I'll say this again. You'll hear me say this many times. WoW has nothing like that. WoW just has nothing like that kind of experience. So it's really, really refreshing. It's a whole new take on political storylines for me, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. And it came out of, I think that the big thing is it came out of nowhere. I just was not expecting that type of closure and cliffhanger. For me, it's not as much of a cliffhanger because I immediately got the content afterwards,
Right,
but
yeah.
I could only imagine how you guys felt.
Imagine
Oh,
waiting
it's a
for
real
a couple of
cliffhanger.
months to a year for
I
Heaven's
could-
Word.
Dude, and that's that exact situation is like that waiting, kind of lying in wait for the reveal is one of the most amazing things, and that's what I love that this game does in long term, in midterm, and in like the short term. You get those payoffs. Like, I'll be having a conversation with a character, and I'm like, great, can you can you elaborate on what the fuck you mean though? Like, can you what's your plan? And then like the next set of dialogue is like that exact explanation, and it's nice to get that because WoW doesn't do that. And then in the long term, it's nice because you get those huge like end of patch cliffhangers, like what you got in 2.5.5. But then in WoW, you wouldn't get the payoff in the next patch. It would happen in 2 expansions.
Oh.
Or in a book.
Yep.
So can I just say,
Yeah, or in a book.
And you have to buy the book. You can't just read the book.
Fuck.
can I just say how? So I was watching your Bloody Banquet stream, and I was just rolling in laughter as you were trying to find the perfect outfit for this banquet, knowing what was coming.
Yes.
It's really tragic.
Cobb and I were fucking dying in admin chat because we knew what was coming and we were watching you get all dressed up.
And I'm like going, and I go through a section of the quest, and they're like, now you can go to the banquet. And I'm like, yes! And then they're like, just kidding. And I was like, fuck! I just want to have some food! Look at this pip suit! Like, come on! I got all nice looking for this, and then I end up going through the whole cutscene. Motherfucker's getting sliced in half. I'm standing in the background with a pink tux. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Looking fly as hell.
You dressed wrong, bitch.
Dude.
Really though,
Oh, man.
it's so realistic though. You show up, you have no
Imagine
reason to
getting Lolorio's
Yeah.
blood on your tux.
At
Dude,
least
I'm
they were
standing
shade of
there,
red.
Raban slices this man in half, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
I just love how they put like a 45-minute movie in the middle of my video game.
I know.
Right.
That's what I'm saying as well. Like, I don't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, very cool. Really enjoyed it. It was great.
For a second, I
Having to
smashed
wait.
the Praetorium.
Having to wait like the 4 months or whatever it was after that came out for Heaven's Word to come out fucking killed me.
That's a long time.
It was excruciating.
Especially since I came back to 14 late. Like, I was a little pissy about the transition from 1.0 to 2.0, so I put off starting ARR for quite a while. So I came back to 14 in like 2.2 or 2.3. So I had a crap ton of story to go through. And then I was keeping up to date with the patches. I get to, the Bloody Banquet finally. And then I'm like, wait, I have to wait now after sequence like that? Are you fucking kidding me?
You just like drop to your knees, hands to the sky, and you're just like, none of them!
Yeah, usually I'm the one cliffhangering people because I'm an author. I don't get
You don't cliffhanger me? What is this? I
That's
do the
funny.
cliffhangers.
I'm glaring at you, Boney, just so you know.
good.
Now I want Pyro's thoughts on the post Bloody Banquet.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please, especially about Alfino.
Let me oh god. Let me get some water real quick. I'll be right back.
Of
Why, Meowth? Why do you care about Alphino?
Leave me alone.
Never.
I know what you think, but
I-
Alfino, if you
I
don't
often
want
know why you care.
yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
why?
if-
I haven't had a pun yet. I
Kept your puns
Love
in
it.
check
if
today.
you don't want him, don't worry. More Alfino for me. That's
I will say I did not enjoy his character long ago. But again, this game loves to make characters develop, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
absolutely.
I wanted to take a moment to just thank all of our viewers. We have quite a lot of them today, and this has been an awesome conversation so far. So we're just waiting for a drink of water, but man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for being so considerate on the spoiler front.
Yes, thank you all. So, to avoid any dead air,
Mhm.
what do you guys think about? So, just in general, when you watch the Bloody Banquet scene and you see that last cutscene as you're escaping, and everybody's last stand, what was kind of your reactions to that? For me, I was like, oh my god, this is happening. This is going to be a completely different game.
Mine were like, wait, we're really gonna go through this? Because I played games like that before, like where the heroes would sacrifice themselves at the last moment, one by one by one, to let the
Mhm.
hero go on. That was a cliche thing for me, but I didn't expect it to happen in an MMO where you're constantly fighting alongside these NPCs. So I was like, wait, are they really gonna up and disappear? Do I need to find a new party now?
Real talk, my reaction was basically, I hope everyone but Thancred and Urianger stay dead.
I was kind
Wow.
of like, wait, where are they going? Shh, what am I gonna do? Oh my god, where's my support team? You know, like freaking out, and it was later on I looked back at it and was like, well, yeah, it makes sense because you need to bring them low so that they can rise high again. But at the time, I was like, what is going on? Where are you going?
I forgot my fucking water downstairs.
Go get it. Go get it.
I did that. I don't recommend it. You feel very silly.
So, I wanted to touch on this as well, and it's not really news
If
to
I may
anybody.
about
go ahead.
the Bloody Banquet, my reaction to it was basically I was kind of that's well, kind of dumbfounded, like what the fuck is going on? And then and then there comes a moment when Yashtole and Thancred are saying we're stay too, and I was like, are you actually going to leave me just with Memphilia? Just with the only one who doesn't do a damn thing?
We're gonna sit here somewhere, and then she's gonna like, well, you can do it, can't you? No one else can.
And
Oh,
then I was
Jesus.
like, this was one of the moments I was actually when she says basically that Heidelin called her on that, and it was like, thank you, Heidelin. Was one of those times, and then of course I saw Alfino appear. I was like, praise whatever God has actually listened to me. I'm alone with Alfino, and I was like, good.
Oh my
Oh no.
god.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
talking
it's
about
one
when
of those.
Memphilia tried to beseech Heidelin and she didn't respond? Is that when you're I thought never mind.
Why can you no longer hear us?
It's like because I'm tired of listening to you. You're annoying as shit. And someone's like, yeah, but she handles the politics, Pyro. And I'm like, no, she doesn't. Alphino does. Like, no.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, Pyro gets it.
I did wanna
Memphilia is there
touch
to be
on-
captured.
I wanted
Sorry.
to touch on. Oh, you're fine. You're fine, Pyro. I wanted to touch on one thing. just in a cursory way, because I really loved that even the what one could perceive as a misstep in like the really annoying voice actor for Alfino, and how that the voice actor changes, even that can be construed as character development because his personality seems to shift a little bit by the time you're at the Somal area.
The Crystal
definitely.
Braves made his balls drop.
It's like, oh wait,
Oh,
everybody's
my
dead.
lord.
I better get a little bit serious and a little bit less.
Are you
petulant.
saying he dropped the ball with the Braves?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yep.
That is wow. So first of all, the Braves, worst name they could have ever possibly come up with. But with that aside, it was kind of annoying when Alphino went all sad mode. So I was like, stop feeling sorry for yourself, Alphino. It'll be okay. We'll get past this. You'll grow. I think I'm talking about the right part of the story.
You are.
Post 2 point. We're talking about
Mhm.
255.
Yep, the post Bloody Banquet scene.
And that's kind of when they started to. Wait, am I reading the right spot? Wait a second.
We're talking about when Ida and Papalymo, let's just say we'll start
Oh.
with Ida and Papalymo shut the gates.
Right.
Okay.
So, and don't we lose Y'shtola and was it
Thancred.
Thancred that was with her? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So that was a big sad. I wasn't expecting that to happen. Especially, well, I don't know. Like, I guess Y'shtola got a little more distant towards the later half of A Realm Reborn. She was a lot more present early on. I guess Thancred is generally similar. But I don't know. I liked the characters, and it was kind of crazy to just kind of see them all wiped off of the experience like that. Especially considering that those were the survivors of the previous attack. You know, I think that, like, when you think back to what happened at the Waking Sands initially, when the Garleans came, and then the issues that we've had with the Ascians, like, it was really like the only people left from all of that. So yeah, that was really shitty. But also, I don't know, it's like kind of cool to see characters put themselves out there in that way. And a lot of games, characters are just like really selfish and don't have moments of selfless acts like that. So I thought that was kind of cool, but it did make me pretty sad.
Yeah, for me, on one hand, I was like, yay, death, excellent. But on the other hand, I was like, oh, wait, I already lost Louisoix from 1.0,
Yeah.
which I was super sad about. And then, you know, I'd bonded with these characters to some extent through 1.0 and 2.x. And I was just like, also a little sad, but also kind of like, yes, kill my
You're an author,
allies,
you're used
make
to
me
it.
suffer.
And at the same time, I have to say that I was also so emotionally drained by, or frankly, by the stream, but also by the previous cinematics that, like, by the time I got there, I was like, Jesus, like, there's just so much happening right now.
Yeah.
Like,
You
what
know,
else could
it's-
go wrong?
It lends to the realism.
It's a lot to absorb, and it does lend to the realism, and even in the capacity of, like, so much shit has gone so horribly bad so quickly that you almost start to, like, become almost numb to it, because it's the only way to, like, to handle it. Like, trying to process it all at the same time is like, holy shit, who's next? Like, who's next? I don't. So yeah, kind of fucked up, but
Sitting in the carriage waiting for your turn, you and Alfie's turn.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, this seems like a happy ending, but I'm not so fucking sure. Like, when's the fucking IED on the side of the road gonna go off? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
fucking chocobo gets blown up. Who knows?
Welcome
And
to A
like
Realm
with this
Reborn
game, I
Reborn.
actually wouldn't be surprised if they blew up a chocobo. Like, Jesus.
Don't
We'll,
touch.
we'll save that for Final Fantasy 16. That's already been shown.
Spoiler.
They kind of did that for Final Fantasy Type 0, so
Oh boy.
That wasn't a spoiler. That was in the trailer.
Don't touch
Yeah.
Boko.
That was whew.
Explosive.
So another yeah.
Some of that's hazy for me. So
No, it was definitely an emotionally draining 45 minutes. And I remember seeing the little warning pop up, and I was like, oh, what? I guess okay. And then I went through it and I was just like, holy shit, I need to go. I need
You're
to
just
go right
reading
now.
out the other
I need to
side.
log off.
I need to take a break. Holy cow.
I
It's
mean,
like,
when,
do I need a
when they
cigarette and a
warn-
sandwich, or do I
Yes.
need
No,
a
by the-
therapist?
By the
When
end of it,
they
you are definitely a
warn
little
you-
traumatized.
I mean, you know, when they warn you, take the warning seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, especially considering what exists in the game as far as like long-windedness, like leading up to that. You know, you have those pieces of dialogue where the character has like 10 pages of words to say, and
Yeah.
you know, so to experience that when they tell you, hey, you might want to put some time aside, well, I guess we should take them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shit's about to go down.
I have a question for you that's more of a general question, Pyro.
Sure.
Were there any like ideas or misconceptions that you had when you started 14 that the game and or community itself subverted as you went on?
Yeah, I thought it was a total weeb game. And then I went, wait a second, I played Final Fantasy before. But I played Final Fantasy X, which is arguably more weeby than this. So
Way more.
like
Way more.
what does that even have to do? So no, but in all seriousness, like I didn't I guess let me think about that. Like what were some of my misconceptions? I guess I thought that the game would play a little slower than it does. Like the GCD is a little longer than your average, but after the adjustments that they made to World of Warcraft that made the GCD actually a lot more similar to this game, it isn't too much different than what I was playing before, honestly.
Mhm.
Narratively, it's the thing is that I tried to come into this game without a bunch of like perceptions of what I thought it was going to be. And I don't like as a WoW player, it was something that would get brought up every once in a while. You know, I'm not going to sit around and pretend like back at when I was a WoW streamer and stuff that someone's like, "You ever going to play 14?" And I'm like, "Fuck no," you know, like that's always my response. But then that wasn't necessarily set because of an expectation necessarily. So it's just mostly been full of pleasant surprises, I think is the best way to describe it. Not the affirmation or rejection of any type of predisposition or expectation. It's just been a lot of like, damn, the story is really fucking good. And damn, I really like the characters. And holy shit, I do really like the music. And I really like dyeing my armor. And I like exploring and I like the cutscenes. And that's kind of what the whole experience has been for me. So not a lot of pre-existing perceptions.
That's good.
That is
That's
good.
good
awesome.
because that kind of lets you have the like
Organic
raw,
experience?
Yeah, the raw organic
Yeah,
experience.
Unfiltered.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I came into 14 expecting to hate it. I did not like 11. I thought it was bad. When 1.0 failed, I was like, "Ha! You see, it's a bad game." And then a friend of mine convinced me to try 14 and in ARR and 2.0, and I was hooked.
Yeah, he's like, see, and you're like, shit.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
And
I
now
do
here
see
you are,
great Lord
Todd.
Bahamut. Yeah.
Now here you are cosplaying and all this other.
Yeah, now all I cosplay is 14, and all I do online is 14.
That's so funny. It is funny.
Now you make merchandise.
Yes, and I get merchandise cease and desisted by Square Enix.
It's fun.
Wait,
We
you
did a lot
Yes.
of what people say about the. Yeah, unfortunately, he did. I'm gonna say a lot of what people say about this, like painting the game as weeb or this or that or the other. It's very reductive. The game is huge and it has a lot of components to it, a lot of moving
Yeah.
pieces. I personally don't like everything about the games. There's things I wish they'd tweak. I wish tab targeting was a little less frustrating. And yes,
Same,
I've already
same,
tweaked
same.
it.
Yep.
Yes, I've already done the tweak. You don't have to tell me.
It
But
still
it-
sucks.
I'm bad
Tab
at clicking
targeting and
to use it. But
like
on the
that.
whole, it is a
Yeah.
good whole as a general.
yeah,
But,
I agree. There's like
but,
little parts like that I think kind of stick out to me, and then there's like one kind of like major issue for me, but it's something that you just kind of develop a muscle memory for eventually.
You get used to it.
And that is just like the inherent like tick rate like delay in the game. I'm not really sure how else to describe it.
Oh, for the
Timings or
AoE
whatever, yeah.
markers.
I mean, for like, no, I don't mean like snapshotting and stuff. I just mean like the way that the game feels when you press buttons, like how
yeah,
responsive it is. Like if
okay.
you, yeah, like if you were to like log into retail WoW and press the buttons in that game and like use the abilities and then log into 14,
Yeah.
14 feels slower and sluggish.
It does.
But-
It's the
Almost like there's
animation.
an
That's
input
what it
delay.
is.
Yeah. And I think, I do think animation sequences is heavily tied to it. I think that's part of the reason, because you're not technically done until your animation is at a certain point or it's over, right? So, but yeah,
But now that we are speaking of misconceptions and we are speaking of A Realm Reborn, I think it's a good moment because you spoke, you said, Pierre, about perhaps the story would be slower or something like that. I think it's, I would say, I know some of us have been actually sharing this around, well, Twitter, or we've been commenting on this. But I think it's, I think it's a good moment to make, that it's about time we stop discouraging people from playing A Realm Reborn.
yeah, yep. I 100% agree. In my experience streaming it, yeah, that's I would say, like, if there's a single identifiable like issue with any type of behavior around the game, I would definitely say one of the ones that stands out to me is the discouragement of A Realm Reborn, because coming into it, I'm stepping into a completely new world. Like, literally everything in front of my eyes is brand new to me. And I understand why people take the stance of like Heavensward is such a big step up, and it is. But I think I hope I don't get myself in trouble here. I think people gotta, like, it's a big step, but I don't think it's as big as some people say that it is. And I say that only to further the point of, like, if you make it sound like it's some huge, gigantic, like, unfathomable difference between the two, and you talk bad about the initial game, that's the hardest part of the game for people to get through. You don't want to discourage people when they're doing the hardest, like the longest slog that they're going to have when leveling. And there were definitely a few times where people were like, "Oh, he's almost at the good part. He's in this part, or we're still doing like the boring part." And it just kind of makes you feel shitty when you're playing it, because you're like, I'm having fun, and you're kind of telling me that I'm not supposed to.
I wanted to touch on this actually when Bonnie first brought up the topic and you answered, like, right after that. I wanted to say this. The game's pretty darn good, and it always has been since 2.0. It's not been perfect, but our community, which you're a part of, has a habit of like self-immolation, and like almost from a position of inferiority. Maybe they will talk down their game in the effort to convince you to play it. And I think over the last number of years, we've lost a lot of opportunities to get converts, because all you ever hear is about how ARR is terrible and how the GCD is slow, and it doesn't
Yeah,
help.
or how people are like, "Oh yeah, just skip our ARR," which is like
Don't
telling someone to
skip.
skip
It's a
the
really
first
bad
two books
idea.
of a book series.
Yeah,
It's a horrible idea because you're missing the foundations of the story.
And you're also
Yes.
missing the foundations of how to play the fucking game. You see
That
that in World
too.
of Warcraft too. You get people
Mhm.
to boost to 60, and it's like, look, I'm not like some god tier fucking gamer anymore,
Right,
and I'm not like a raider, but it's like I can tell you have no idea what you're doing, and I can't even necessarily blame you for that, because it's an option that you have, and it's something that people encourage, and it's just, that sucks. That sucks, because you do miss all of that gigantic narrative foundation that A Realm
Yeah.
Reborn inarguably has to establish for something like Heavensward, or you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know what's going on. So
It
don't
yeah,
know
drives
when to
me-
like.
don't boost. Don't boost in any game. Don't boost in any game unless it's explicitly to play with friends that are going to guide you through it, and you don't care about the story, or if it's your second character. Don't fucking boost.
Or if
I've
you,
seen that, by the way.
Boost
or
is
you're
fantastic for my ult.
or your
Yeah.
26th character, which is make it.
You're
Yeah.
crazy.
You just
Meow.
level them all. You're insane. Love you.
Yeah, but I mean that's maybe a little bit of a hot take for some. But
My thing is, why would you pay to skip content that you paid for?
Paid.
Yeah.
Especially because it's free. Like, this content's free.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly.
That's something that always boggles my mind. Like, people bring up, they're like, still in the free trial, by the way, and I'm like, holy fuck, you're right, dude. Like, I am already paying for a subscription because of the way that I bought it. But being able to trade with players is pretty nice. So I'm glad that I actually, I did buy the whole thing. But it's like, damn, this is actually, anyone could play this for nothing.
for nothing.
Yeah. The way that people shit on ARR kind of blows my mind because, I know that for some people they're doing this like in hindsight comparing ARR to all the expansions bullshit and
That's what
warping
it
their
is.
own like memory of ARR. But what people need to keep in mind is ARR is literally what not only saved 14, but also to an extent saved Square Enix.
Yeah.
So like,
And it's 10 fucking years old, dude.
yeah,
It's 10 years old. Like, I can't believe the game that I played through was 10 years old. I really can't.
It's stunning, right?
It is. And I put G-Shade over it, which makes it look more stunning. But
oh yes, I love this shade so much.
but yeah, sorry to cut you off, but like yeah.
No, it's all good. I think a lot of the people who say that AR should be skipped kind of look at it in a vacuum compared to the rest of Final Fantasy, but aren't really looking at other MMOs in general and just how good ARR is in comparison.
And also just from like a
Just-
story perspective, I mean, you're already doing this with your note taking, but please do expect things that happen in ARR to be relevant later. They always are. It's
Oh, of
through all the
course.
expansions. Heaven's Word is relevant to Stormbloods. They're all relevant to each other.
This story is a cake, and
Yes.
and AR is the first layer, the biggest one. It's
layer
big,
cake.
it's chunky, but it's a support for all the rest of the layers that are going up on top.
And I like that it's
That's
layered in that
delicious.
way.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I like that it's layered in that way because it's more structured, it's ordered, it's easier to follow. World of Warcraft was more like a scramble where you've got your bacon, you got your potatoes, you got your fajita veggies, whatever it is whatever kind of scramble you're making. And it all tastes good when you take it and you put it in your mouth, but it's not very orderly. It's pretty chaotic, and sometimes, people like different proportions. Sometimes people miss some of the potatoes and they don't understand the potatoes very well. And so
Don't forget the pancakes on 3.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, and I use that analogy because I'm hungry. But it's nice. It's nice. It's nice that it's, and that structure really, really lends itself to the comprehension of the audience, and I think that goes a long, long way for people like you guys and for people like me, because obviously, like that, a lapse in continuity or story integrity can be hugely detrimental. And I love that in this game that it's built on the foundation and then expanded upon, because in games like World of Warcraft, it's more like sprinkled throughout all of these disparate factions and locations and events, and you kind of just have to figure it out. So, yeah, I will definitely continue to refer back to things that I learned from A Realm Reborn, because I feel like there's a lot of information that got dumped on me there.
So much
yeah,
information.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I hope you continue to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I will. It seems like
We
it's,
know you
yeah.
will.
Isn't
So,
that
yeah.
building expectation?
Sorry.
Yes,
Where's the bonk guy in the chat? Stream bonker? Where are you?
Do we have that yet?
You just-
I need a bonk.
You just got to take out the no, you will, and you just got to say you will, and that's all you have to do.
That's funny. Well, I think that's an excellent place to stop today. Pyromancer, thank you so much for visiting us on the stream. This has
Of course,
been
thanks
awesome.
for having me.
I'd like us to keep in touch and contact and talk and hang out and have fun. And
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think that said, I think Cobron had an announcement today.
Yes, I do. Pyro, once again, thank you for joining us today. Everyone in chat, thank you for being here. We do want to say that next week we will be joined by another guest talking about the Circle of Knowing as we welcome Anonymous.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah.
No. Maybe? No. I think we're
Okay.
gonna raid the songbirds when you finish up.
Nice.
Excellent.
Oh, I love him so much. I even got a t-shirt from him.
You got a t-shirt?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
That-
awesome.
That was my first live experience in this game ever. Actually, I was in Gridania and I teleported in, and my chat started fucking going crazy. And they're like, Songbird, Songbird, Songbirds. I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. I don't know what's going on. I go back to the Aetheryte, and there's like a fucking bajillion people there, and there's like a group of people playing, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? And it was so cool. They played like 5 or 6 songs, and then it was really cool. I'd never experienced anything like that. So yeah, shout out Songbirds. That was dope.
Awesome.
Well, I guess we'll close up shop. Thanks again, everybody. Viewers, please come next week. And Pyromancer, thank you once again. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah, thanks
Yes.
for having me.